Welcome to the St. Francis Youth Podcast. Well, here we go again. Season 2 of the St. Francis Youth Podcast. I am your host, Paul Cable, youth pastor at St. Francis Church in Salisbury. The aim of this podcast is to engage our amazing young people at St. Francis in conversations around life and faith, and to encourage you during this season of COVID-19. If you are watching this or listening in and you're not part of our youth groups, you are still so welcome, and we hope that you feel part of the conversation as well. Each episode, I plan to be joined by special guests, and this season, we're going to aim to get maybe one episode out each month, usually towards the end of each month. September is a long way away, but for many of you, you're beginning to think about what's next. And about 13 of you are in year 13, and I believe the majority of you are looking at university. Our youth group family is going to look so different in September. We're going to miss you guys so much, but we promise to stay in touch and to be praying for you and supporting you and catching up with you when you're back from uni. So this episode is all about life and faith at university. I caught up with two familiar faces to St. Francis Youth, Patrick and Rosie, and I also had a chat with my mate Joe, who was in my youth group when I worked in Harrow, and I asked them all about their university experience so far. So here we go. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. And I'm just going to ask you a little bit about your experience to move into uni, if that's all right. Can you tell us a little bit about what uni you're at and what you're studying?
Yeah, I'm at Brunel University. I'm studying music and I'm in my second year now.
Amazing. What does an average day of doing music at Brunel look like?
I get up, do my lectures, and then sort of afternoon time I do the work. And right now the deadlines are coming up, so right now it's really busy. So I've always got work to do. Practicing instruments, doing various Zoom calls with people. That's what it makes up at the moment. It's a bit of a weird one, but yeah, that's what it's like at the moment.
Yeah, strange time, I think, to be at uni. And actually, we really feel for you guys. I think, out of this pandemic, I think students have had quite a tough time, really. And so, we're praying for you and we're championing you. You guys are amazing. Joe Calvi,
Hello.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Yeah, so Paul was the youth worker back in Harrow, and I was part of his youth group as a little person. You never did anything embarrassing, Paul. You never dressed up as Princess Leia in front of the church.
I did. I remember that.
Yeah.
Why did I do that?
I think because we reached some target that you set. I remember you gave like a notice thing where you're talking about, you put as many Star Wars puns into the notice as possible, dressed as Princess Leia.
There was a lot of Star Wars puns.
It was impressive.
Some of them were pretty good, actually. One of them I do remember was because we had printed off the news sheet, and I said that there'd been extra copies because the photocopier had a bit of a attack of the clones.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
I do remember that one.
That came on the spot. Unplanned.
Nice. And have your youth group found Keep That in Mind yet? The hit single by, I don't even remember where I would find that.
I'm glad you bring that up. Yeah. I might play another little clip like I did in the John Nelson interview. Here we go. Keep that in mind. We don't like your ways. Stay away.
So I'm going to Bristol Uni at the minute, studying English literature, just really loving it, getting sort of unpacking books and like texts from all over the place and poems and stuff. So yeah, just really loving it. Even though I've been locked in for quite a while and I'm still stuck in Harrow at the minute. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, what a year to have started university.
Yeah, it sucks a little bit, but we've made the most of it.
Yeah, well done. Well, here is a familiar face to most of us. Here's Rosie. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thank you. Good. Thank you for coming on our podcast. And you have started a university in what's been a terrible year to do that, all things counted. Can you tell us a little bit about what uni you're at and what you're studying?
So I'm at London School of Theology, near Watford in London, and I'm studying just straight theology, which has been really good.
Fantastic. And yeah, that move, obviously there's been unique challenges this year, but what's it been like going from school to uni? What's been the biggest difference and the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest thing for me was just being away from home and going to a completely new area. That was definitely a very big thing for me and took me a while to adjust, but I've definitely grown a lot from the experience. So although it's been challenging, it's also been really good.
I think personally I had a whole bunch of free time, which sounds great, especially as an English student, but I was kind of expected to read a whole lot in that time. And I think it was at school you had a sort of a start time of the day and a finish time of the day, and so you could sort of fit stuff in where it's meant to be, whereas here you've got to kind of organize your day around that, and you might be working at whatever hours you want, which is great, but it's also just a real massive change, and just trying to keep on top of that and not kind of fall behind. But
yeah, great. So keeping yourself organized, planning the day,
definitely.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It is an added responsibility, isn't it, almost, as well?
And it's stuff like, so one of my lectures goes on till it starts at 7.
Oh wow.
And so it was just I made sure the night before that I'd always make enough like dinner just so that I didn't have to cook that night. And it's like juggling all these things at once. But yeah, I've kind of got used to it now, so it's getting better.
Yeah. I think it was just like this sense of like managing all of my life. Obviously everyone says independence, and you really, when you like in the first few weeks, you really have this sense of like, I literally can do whatever I want with all my time. And like, there's just this thing of like, I've got to do my dishes, I've got to think about my money and my grocery shopping. I've got to make sure I'm on top of my degree. And you just get this real sense of like, all these options are up to me and what I can do with my time and what I do with myself. So that, I think that was probably the biggest like thing really. Apart from obviously just the real kind of excitement of like being in London, being in a new place, and it's just like your world just completely expands. And hopefully it's for most people it's a really awesome experience, and it's scary for a little while hopefully, and then after that it really just, you just really get into it and you really start to enjoy it.
For you, what have been some of the highlights of your uni experience so far?
Highlights. Well, it's very different, like comparing last year and this year. I mean, last year a lot of it was going out and stuff. I didn't always enjoy a lot of it, but I have lots of good memories. And I remember there was a silent disco on like the first week, and like that was all very new and everyone was new, so that's quite exciting. Playing music, obviously part of my course. Like, I think actually going to the some of the church events I did actually last year were really nice. I went to people's houses and just I met some lovely Christians, lovely people. I think a lot of the time it really is the people that you meet that make it, like just the great times you have, and going to the pub in Uxbridge and all those kind of things really. Yeah, just you just get to do loads of things that you just wouldn't do, living in Salisbury. You just get to try loads of new things, and that's just really stuff that I look back on. It's really fun. And then this year, we got to hang out in the Christian Union a little bit before lockdown kind of kicked off, and we went round each other's houses and chatted into late night and went down to the pub occasionally. That was really, really fun. And it's nice to have that before lockdown kicked in, and then you don't really get much of that stuff.
Because we've all been sort of locked in a little bit. We had a few kind of nights out, but other than that, as a flat, we've kind of been forced to kind of socialize because we're totally different people. We've got partiers, we've got all sorts. We've got the quiet people and stuff, and and we've all kind of been forced into because we had a whole lockdown where we had COVID and we tested positive, so we were stuck in our room for 2 weeks, and it's just kind of forced us to socialize. We have had movie nights. We made, just before we broke up, we made a huge like Christmas dinner with like a massive turkey. We didn't need a turkey, but we had a turkey, potatoes, and yeah, it's just been really good to sort of properly bond with these people that you probably, if it was normal, they definitely would be out every night. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, amazing. A lot of people often talk about uni really being about like creating a new social network, meeting lots of new people. Was that something you were nervous about when you made the move? Because obviously you're going from one friendship group to almost, you know, having to build a whole new one. Was that anything you were nervous about?
I guess. I mean, I've been quite lucky that my friendship group from like school time, we were quite close anyway, and so we've sort of stayed in touch, and we've had stuff like Netflix party. We've managed to sort of have a movie night kind of thing together, or we've been watching a bit of Star Trek together as well, and so we kind of, I've managed to catch up with the people and sort of remind myself. It's kind of like reminds myself of home and stuff like that, whilst also meeting these new people. So I feel like I've kind of transitioned rather than it being a sort of straight jump, which has been quite helpful, I think.
I think one of the main things is like new relationships, and you form like really close friendships because you're all away from home, and you're all like in the same boat. So that's been amazing. I think just being able to really focus on a subject that you're really passionate about is amazing, instead of having like lots of different subjects to focus on, and just being like more independent is really cool. And yeah, just that chance to grow and like be your own person is, yeah, really cool.
That's amazing. And I think you're probably now the third person I've interviewed, and all three of you have talked about almost straight away the sort of the new friendships and relationships that you build. I can imagine though that maybe being something that's quite nerve-wracking at first, because you leave sort of one group behind. Was that true for you? Was that difficult at first, or?
Yeah, I was definitely nervous, but I think everyone's in the same situation, so everyone's looking to form new friendships, and so although it's really difficult, I think everyone's worried, and so you do all manage to find each other, and yeah, it's really good.
I'd really love, actually, if it's okay, to dig in a little bit to your experience of having faith at uni. What's been some of the biggest challenges to your faith?
You do get this sense of like, a lot of the time it does feel like it's just you and God, really, because like you're kind of by yourself in lots of ways. I mean, I'm connected obviously to CU and I lots of Christians, but yeah, you do feel a pressure of like to kind of conform in lots of ways, and you know, just kind of be like everyone else, and that is a pressure. So but at the same time, that makes you like, I think that deepens your relationship with God and like makes you want to rely on him more as well, so that's really cool. But I think it really does like highlight new things about how you see things and how you feel about your faith, and it makes you kind of like just think about it more and like the real effects of it. And I think also meeting a lot of people from different backgrounds, people who you suddenly meet people who've never heard of Christianity or never heard of Jesus, and then that does change your perspective on things, and which can go either way, really.
I think for me, although obviously being at a Christian college, I've been surrounded by Christians, and I'm always doing like group prayer or group Bible study or group worship, and so I kind of went with the expectation that it's going to be really easy to keep up my passion for what I'm doing and have a really close relationship with God. But I think the main thing I learned during this time was I kind of got so carried away in the social side of uni that I forgot to spend time on my own with God. And so I think although I was technically living a very like religious life, it wasn't necessarily a time where I've been closest to God, because I think I just forgot about the importance of just sitting and reading my Bible on my own, praying on my own. And I think that's something I really learned, that it's so important to just have that time to take to really connect to God by yourself as well as in groups and stuff. So I think that's been the biggest challenge for me during this time.
Finding a church was really hard. I mean, I haven't actually managed to get to a church because the weeks that the churches were open, I was sort of locked in. And so, because I mean, I wasn't very good with there's things like ST.F, which tries to get you hooked up with a Christian union and get you hooked up with the church and stuff. I wasn't great at that, but I've managed to find a church that seems to sort of not do what I like, but I seem to sort of resonate with what they're saying, and it seems like a nice kind of place that I could fit in. But I've just haven't had a chance to actually go there and meet anyone. So it's just all been on emails or going to their online services. And so I think it's just, if you want to keep on top of things, you've got to kind of be proactive about it, or otherwise you kind of just slip, and then you get sort of further and further and more out of routine with it.
That's really helpful. Just on a side to that, why was finding a church one of those things you prioritized or saw as important?
I guess, I mean, I've always sort of felt like church was kind of like a family anyway, and I feel like if you can get into a proper church community and sort of become a member of that, it helps a lot. If they're from my experience of my church, they're always sort of there to sort of support with things going on. I felt like that was just something that I really wanted to sign up to as quickly as possible, because I also, if I knew if I didn't, I probably wouldn't end up doing it at all. So it's just trying to get that in.
How have you maintained a relationship with God at university? What are some of the practices and ways that you have kept that relationship going?
Yeah, it's been hard, especially finding a new routine, and then trying to fit in the old kind of prayer cycles and stuff on top of that. It was really hard, actually. I found I've ended up going on more walks than I normally would, just because I kind of had the freedom and the parks right next door. And so in these walks, I've kind of tried to incorporate a bit more of that sort of prayerness, and especially we've got river sort of views, and it's really sort of scenic, and it's very easy just to be in tune a little bit with what God's saying. So I think that's been helpful, and trying to just actively make time, because it's very easy for it to sort of slip away.
Yeah, it can be a struggle. I mean, especially with uni and the start term, you're very busy. But I know a lot of people who say that like starting your morning with God is one of the most important things you can do. And I always had time in the morning, and like I'd never have anything until 10 o'clock for my lectures. So like I use the Bible app, the daily devotional thing. That's really good. And I've got some Bible plans going on at the moment. I think, yeah, and just opening up your Bible just every day. And I always like try to like pray before I read, and like just kind of say to God, like just kind of be expecting him to say something, and kind of ask him to speak to you. But it does take real effort. I think you'll really find that like it's a real active effort, and it can quite easily slip away from you. And which is also why it's really important to connect up to a community of Christians as well, if that's something you really want to do, because that is like so crucial.
Yeah, so I'm doing my placement at Soul Survivor in Watford, and I've been helping the kids team, which has looked a bit different this year, because even though for like last term church was open and stuff, it was all a bit smaller, and we still had to do it a bit differently. But it was just great to see how, because Soul Survivor is quite a big church, so it was interesting to get involved and see how they do things, and going to things like staff meetings. It's been so interesting to see kind of behind the scenes, all the things that they like work towards and their values. And it's just been really good getting to know new people, and it's been nerve-wracking going to like a new church. But yeah, everyone there's so friendly, and it's definitely been a highlight for me this year.
Why do you think sort of getting rooted into a church, and I guess early on, is so important when you head off to uni for the first time?
I think it's just, again, more relationships that you build. Because for me, I think uni can be quite a bubble sometimes. And so I think to have, like for me, I'm in a connect group. And so I've got a really good, although at my uni, I've got a good friendship group, I've equally got one at church, which is separate. And I think it's just so healthy to have that. And especially if you don't go to a Christian uni, it's nice to have people who believe in the same things as you do and kind of do life with them. I think that's really important. So yeah, I think it's just been really good to have a community, and it's really helped me feel more at home there.
Well, I've got one more question. Thank you. These have been great. What advice would you give? So I guess kind of your top tips to a young person heading off to uni for the first time.
Well, I think it will be different for everyone, but from my experience at the beginning, I really struggled with homesickness a lot. And I think I had, this won't be the same for everyone, but I had a lot of people telling me, like, you mustn't come home for like the first half term or something. And I think I ended up putting so much pressure on myself that I have to just be fine on my own. And I don't think I quite understood how big of a jump it was going to be. And in the end, I kind of, if I needed to come home, I just came home, even though it was difficult. And I think just do what you need to do and don't put too much pressure on yourself, because it is such a big change. And I think you've just got to do what you can manage and find little ways to help you, even if it's different to what other people do.
Put you on the spot,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I think firstly remember that, like, the amazing thing is that you get this feeling of like everyone else, you're going by yourself and you're kind of by yourself, but you can always remember that God is like with you wherever you go, which is really cool, and you're never alone. And I always got that sense, like being in my room, I'm by myself, but really I'm not, and you don't feel alone, and that's really encouraging. So always remember that. And also I'd say, like I said earlier, get connected to a Christian union and a church, which I know a lot of people say, but it really is true. Like, that's one of the most important things you can do. And it's such an exciting opportunity as well to like meet very different types of Christians that you might not normally meet, and go to a different church, to St. Francis, get a very different experience, and that's really cool. Those are two really important things. And like, I think I'd also say, like, expect that like God will do things at uni. Like, it's not like he's just here and then he's not at uni. Like, if anything, uni is a great way for like you to learn more about God, and there's so many amazing opportunities to do things. And I've seen things in my own, like, just during second year, I've seen some really quite cool things. So definitely, yeah, just being expectant, I suppose.
I guess being sociable can be interesting. I found I was kind of hoping that people would have a sort of, there are lots of people who have no real interest in their course. I've got a few English friends who have no interest in English whatsoever. And it seems like their whole world revolves around drinking and Friday nights. And the Friday nights happen on Monday nights and Tuesday nights and every night. And I think it's trying to get the balance of trying to be sociable whilst also I'm not a huge drinker. I don't like parties, and it's trying to find things I can kind of go to and meet with these people whilst also kind of doing the stuff that I enjoy.
So there we go, the end of another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are in year 13 or you're starting to think about life at university, we are planning on doing some university prep sessions this year. So do keep an eye out for those. We just want to encourage you and equip you to live life to the full for Jesus when you head off to university. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. And we'll see you next time.